What if the garden you've been tending isn't a sanctuary, but a crime scene, where every petal is fed by sacrifice, and the only way to stop the harvest is to let your own roots rot? In Bloom and Blood, Eva Chase delivers a dark botanical fantasy that transforms the cottagecore aesthetic into a visceral exploration of inherited violence, proving that in lineages rooted in blood magic, growth is never innocent, and beauty is always bought. This isn't merely another witchy romance with floral metaphors. It's a lush, psychologically precise narrative where cultivation becomes complicity, intimacy requires pruning the parts of yourself that serve the cycle, and love means choosing barrenness over bloody bloom. From the first loam-scented narration, listeners are plunged into a world where chlorophyll carries memory, and every harvest feels like both communion and consumption. Perfect for fans of eco-horror and stories where nature is neither benevolent nor neutral, this audiobook serves up relentless atmosphere, unflinching emotional honesty, and a protagonist whose journey from obedient gardener to sovereign earth witch resonates with anyone who's ever felt poisoned by their own inheritance. When herbalist Rowan Vance inherits her grandmother's apothecary garden, she expects healing traditions, not to discover the soil demands monthly offerings of vitality to sustain its miraculous cures. But as Rowan navigates wilting wards and villagers dependent on tainted remedies, she realizes this legacy isn't about preservation, it's about perpetuating a pact that consumes women to feed the land. Chase masterfully avoids reducing Rowan to victim or the garden to villain. Instead, she crafts a relationship rooted in radical renegotiation, where consent is negotiated with sentient flora that remembers every drop spilled, and where liberation requires honoring the earth without becoming its fuel. The audiobook narration amplifies this ecological vertigo, capturing Rowan's disciplined tenderness fracturing into fierce defiance, while the garden's presence shifts subtly between nurturing and ravenous, making every rustling leaf feel like both comfort and threat. You don't just hear the curse unfold, you feel the seismic shift of a woman learning that true stewardship means saying no to the very thing that sustains you. What elevates Bloom and Blood beyond typical botanical fantasy is its nuanced portrayal of magical ecology as systemic exploitation rather than mystical balance. Rowan isn't merely breaking a curse, she's confronting how generations of women were taught to equate self-sacrifice with sacred duty, challenging the notion that fertility requires female depletion. Her relationships evolve through acts of radical reciprocity, sharing silence with ancient trees that bypass human language, setting boundaries that protect both ecosystem and embodiment, and defending fellow practitioners from communities who mistake abuse for tradition. Supporting characters add vital texture, elders whose wisdom masks compliance, young apprentices navigating inherited guilt, even the mycelial network itself, rendered as collective consciousness holding memories official histories tried to compost. Every interaction reinforces the novel's core truth. In systems built on extraction, refusal is regeneration, and care begins when you stop feeding the machine. Even the botanical mechanics serve thematic depth, with grafting mirroring emotional integration and seasonal cycles becoming metaphors for necessary decay and rebirth. For audiobook listeners, this production is an immersive sensory descent into verdant dread. The narrator embodies Rowan and the garden's voice with remarkable distinction. Rowan's tone cherries steel wrapped in dawning sovereignty, while the flora's presence is conveyed through layered sound design that evokes both ancient hunger and mournful recognition, making their dynamic palpable even in stillness. Sound design enhances atmosphere without overwhelming intimacy. Distant wind through leaves marking emotional transitions, rain against greenhouse glass during vulnerable confessions, the hushed crackle of drying herbs syncing with breath during moments of clarity, all anchor mythic stakes in tangible reality. Pacing mirrors the rhythm of cultivation, deliberate during planting and reflection, then surging with urgency as external demands collide with internal awakening. Whether you're navigating daily commutes or sitting in twilight solitude, the audiobook creates a portable grove where isolation feels absolute and connection feels like oxygen. Its storytelling is embodied rebellion, transforming passive listening into active participation in a love story that refuses to be sanitized. Ultimately, Bloom and Blood redefines dark botanical fantasy by centering female bodily autonomy within ecological frameworks. It satisfies genre cravings for atmospheric wonder and high-stakes tension, while delivering substantive commentary on reproductive labor, environmental grief, and the radical act of building partnerships based on mutuality rather than martyrdom. No prior series knowledge is needed. It stands confidently as a complete emotional odyssey. If you've ever wondered whether love can thrive without consumption, or if true strength requires letting go of what feeds you, this audiobook will affirm that sometimes the most powerful bloom is the one you choose not to grow. Press play, dig your hands in the dirt, and prepare to believe that even in landscapes shaped by blood, hearts still find ways to root in freedom. Your next favorite dark fantasy isn't waiting in perfect harmony. It's waiting in the brave, trembling choice to cultivate something new from the root.